Imagine that you've always wanted a Lotus Elise S1, you've scrimped and you saved, finally comes the day when you go to collect it, you're absolutely over the moon, it's deep purple, it's exactly the car and the spec that you wanted. Then, a few days later, you find out the car has had crash damage that has not been properly repaired. Worse still, that crash damage has actually affected the chassis. A chassis that, according to Lotus itself, should not be repaired. This is exactly what happened to a couple of ex-owners of this particular car. Hello everybody, a warm welcome from me and from the Frankenlees, the Lotus that convention would have definitely killed off. I bought the Frankenlees knowing that there were some definite issues with this car and that it had an interesting history, to say the least. I knew it was twice a Cathy, and I'd also seen on the Selloc forum that there had been, 5 years previous anyway, or 6 years previous, there had been a dodgy repair to that side of the car. And I did want a bit of a project, but when I found out the true extent of the damage to this one, I was a bit shocked, to be quite honest. And the other problem is that these chassis are just not designed to be fixed. I think quite a few have, but they've all been done under the table, so to speak. I think this is the first very public fixing of one of these chassis. The whole process is taking so much longer than I was hoping. I think I bought this in January, and it literally just arrived back yesterday, which I was absolutely delighted about, and it is now fixed. First I sourced a donor piece of chassis from another car, and then towards the end of May the 25th I think, I sent it off to Ash and to Phil to start doing the work. And the plan was cut out what was bad that was too twisted to save on the original section, cut out an exact matching piece from the donor section, get that to fit, and then rivet and glue it in. We used Permabond Toughen Epoxy, which is, the code is ES550 I think. That is a structural glue that actually has to be cured as well at a relatively high temperature. So it's a very similar process to the original glue that was used for the chassis. There is one bit that you'll see that was welded because of where it is, and it wasn't close to any glue joints, so that the best solution was to weld that. So what they had to do originally, cut out all the damaged bits, cut out a matching piece, which is much harder than you'd think because it had to absolutely be a perfect match. They then had to form some lapping panels. So where the old piece goes in, they had to put some lapping panels underneath the old piece, so that when the new one goes on, there was a sort of a tongue for it to stick onto. They then used the glue on both sections, and they riveted it all together. The riveting is really mainly to make sure that everything is pulled together as tightly as possible and that the glue has a great bond. So that's essentially the process, and after that a heat gun to cure everything, and this is the result. I'm just so happy to have it back and looking like a chassis again. The glue that's been pushed out of the joints may look a little bit untidy, but it was much better to err on the side of caution and put too much glue than too little, and if anything it will strengthen the bond. Originally we were thinking of reusing the Lotus screws, but we didn't have enough of them to do this, and we figured that the rivets would be quite a good alternative anyway. This section has had to be welded. Because of the shape of it, we weren't going to be able to get, or the guys weren't going to be able to get a panel that was matching. Also, like this, it can be ground down, and from inside the car it all looked pretty neat. Whereas obviously with the glue squeezing out and all these rivets, it probably wouldn't have been a pretty sight inside the car itself. So this, as you can see, this whole bit cut across here and back under and over, this is the new matching section that has been completely replaced. What was there was really quite bad. So bad, in fact, that at one point this wasn't even bolted in. It couldn't be, because this had been bent down and folded over. The next thing that has to be done now before I can try and use it is I cut through this panel, this sill panel, to expose everything before without having to take off the front piece, which is a real pain and difficult to do. So I'm going to need to rebond that together now, put that on before I can start rebuilding the next bit of the car. So that's the first process. I'm going to use some steel tongues here to help hold it in place while everything cures, and then while I can lay a layer of fibre to bond it all back in. I was going to lay a load of internal glass fibre, but I realised actually that having the steel would probably be more stable in terms of keeping it all together until it's all fully bonded. The sill is mocked up now, so it's fitting pretty well. There is a bit of material taken off there, but that's when it was removed before, but that can be filled. But if I can show you, if I can now remove it, I had to go round and make a few adjustments to try and make sure that the fit was as good as possible, and I've had to prepare basically a little metal, this is a steel scaffold which is also screwed in. Those screws will be taken out afterwards when it's all bonded, but for now these metal plates are bonded back with PU glue, and they're held in by screws. When the new bit goes on, they're also all going to be screwed in, and then the new bit is also going to be bonded around the car. After that, I'll be able to sort of put some fibre around it. I've made a V and scraped off enough that it's going to form a V, and I can use a few layers of glass fibre. The sill covering is now bonded in place. I just realised yesterday, when I should have shown you something else about that repair that I completely forgot about, there is a central rib to the section that's been replaced, and I'm sure a lot of you will be wondering what happened to that central rib. What the guys did about that is that central rib on the existing part of the chassis, there wasn't that much of it left, to be quite honest. They're all been crumpled up, but what was left, they moved down slightly and left a lip. They raised the central lip on the other bit of chassis, the new bit of chassis, so that when they go in they're going to overlap, and they put a bead of glue all along that side of it. So of course it's not going to be as strong as it was before, but it's going to work well enough. I think I'm pretty happy with all that. So next, so this is back on. It required a lot more fiddling and faffling, took me most of the day. Those edges are feathered. It matches pretty well, apart from at the bottom it's slightly jutting out on this bottom side, but it will be, I think it'll be good enough. I mean, this car is going to be an honest car. I'm not going to try and make it perfect. I just want to make it usable. I was going to film putting the clam back on, but being a complete and utter numpty, I totally forgot about it and didn't manage it. So still got to get the under tray on, and still got a few bits to tidy up and everything, but it's getting there. This moment has been such a long time coming, I can't tell you how happy I am. I bought this car in January thinking that I would basically have it back and done by early March. It's now July. And I am just so happy to be in it. I'm just so happy. I'm just so happy. Thank you so much, first of all, to Phil, known as Junks, on the Selloc forums. I couldn't have done it without him. He's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody on the Selloc forums, most of whom have been really at least interested and supportive. Really appreciate it. I'm so happy to be in an Elise S1, finally. Lastly, Phil isn't going to do any of this kind of work. He did it as a favour to me, but Ash from Automotive Sporting Heritage, who basically did the work with Phil, he will consider doing fixing work on other S1s, other Elises. He'll have a look and see if he thinks it's fixable or not. I will put his details in the video description, so have a look on there. Now, in the next video, I'm going to tell you, we're going to go through exactly how much it has cost me to fix the Franken-Lees, and then I'll take it for a proper road test, and we'll find out what needs doing to it, because it's guaranteed there will be other mechanical things that need doing. This is always going to be an honest car. Obviously I need to sort all this out, but that's not a priority at the moment to pretty it up. I just want to drive it. It's been so long. Thank you all for coming on this journey with me. Please do subscribe if you're interested in what I'm doing. If you want to contact me, then Instagram is the best way. And I really look forward to seeing you for the next video.